What up? Let's talk about when energized work is actually allowed under the 70E. Now, we're not looking for excuses, we're aiming for clarity. So here's the deal. Anytime you're working inside the limited approach boundary or you're doing something that might cause an arc flash, that equipment is supposed to be in an electrically safe work condition. Basically, de-energized. That's the rule. There are some exceptions though, and they're not loopholes, they're more like guardrails, and right now there's 5 of them, and 2 of them are pretty close, so we're gonna talk about those 2 first. Now, the first one is normal operation. Now, this one's specific. Normal operation, this is a defined term that includes a list of requirements, but here's the key. If the equipment meets all of those conditions for normal operation, using it doesn't even count as energized work. It's kind of weird, right? Technically, it's an exception to needing an electrically safe work condition by saying you never needed one in the first place. But this check does matter because if the equipment isn't in normal operating condition, it could cause injury or damage or could be dangerous. So the second one is operating a disconnecting means to establish an electrically safe work condition. This one's close to the first. You're allowed to operate a disconnect like a switch or a breaker to create an electrically safe work condition as long as there's no unacceptable risk involved with that. And what defines unacceptable risk? Well, go back and check exception 1, normal operation, and if it meets that list, you're good. So in plain terms, if the equipment is in normal operating condition, you don't have to shut it off to use it. Even if that means shutting it off. Trust me, look, I know this one's confusing, but I'll make another video for you to explain all about those 2. But the third one, infeasibility. Now this one's probably the most realistic justification. It's also the most used and abused. So be real with yourself. But look, sometimes the job literally can't be done de-energized. So things like troubleshooting, voltage reading, commissioning, all of that only works with the system live. So in those cases, energized work is justified because of the nature of the task. But that doesn't mean you're good to go. You still need to plan. You still need to follow every protective measure. And the fourth one is working on equipment that's under 50 volts. Yes, you can work on it if it's under 50 volts and a risk assessment is done that confirms there's no arc flash hazard, essentially. And this, so like landscape lighting or something like that, you're usually gonna be fine. But don't assume that a big battery bank that happens to be under 50 volts, 48 volts, can't blow up in your face, because I've seen it. Is it a shock hazard? Probably almost never, but you're mainly looking for an arc flash potential in those situations. And the last one is increased risk or a greater hazard. Now this one shows up in hospitals, 911 centers, critical factories, or places where shutting down the power might create more of a risk than doing it energized. Like it could jeopardize patient care, emergency response, or even like release a toxic gas in a factory or something. So energized work can be justified in that case, but not by you alone. You need to involve management, you need to document the risk assessment, and plan the work with the right people, the ones that actually know what you're doing and what really matters in the facility. So the bottom line is, don't go looking for reasons to do things energized, but when it is justified, you still have a lot of responsibility, so you better lock down every requirement. And chapter 1 of the 70E still applies, so there's no exceptions to that. Look, this isn't about convenience. It is about safety, clarity, and owning your responsibility as a qualified person. Be safe out there.